So, this next session is called Legends of the Course. Cam Frasier Award winners on the 4 Ps of business. Now, I know you probably can't see everybody behind me here, but take a look. This is some serious freaking horsepower up here from a coaching standpoint. So Master Coach Dan Creed's going to facilitate this panel of Cam Frasier Award winners discussing how they apply the 4 Ps of the marathon mindset to their business. Dan, take it away, my friend.
Thank you. Do I have a mic?
Yes, you do.
Yeah. We've got nine people up here, and I want you all to take notes because you're going to hear some things that you need to do whether you're brand new or you've been around for a while, because the 4 Ps, purpose, preparation, pace, and perseverance, are all represented up here, if not all of them, in each person. I wanted to share real quickly something I learned from one of my first sales mentors almost 50 years ago, and it's held me to this day, and it really drives towards my purpose. He said, you'll never be as successful as you possibly can be, what your potential can be, if you look at any prospect or client as a commission check. He says you have to look at everybody you meet and talk to understand their needs from their point of view and then help them solve it, and the money will always follow. The money will always follow. And I've known coaches who go out and say, well, if they won't pay me $4,000 a month, I'm not going to coach them. But that's not the way to do it. And they're not sitting in this room. So that gave me purpose from day one, to help people. I know it sounds trite, but to help people to understand their needs from their point of view and then help them if I can. And really, I believe I can help anybody with any need they have, as long as it deals with business and what we know. And that has drove my purpose, and then it forces me to be prepared so I can help as many people as possible. I said it yesterday. I just believe there's somebody on the street corner with a giant sign that says, Coach Dan, where are you? I need you now. So I'm always prepared, and I work really hard. And I do it over and over and over and over again, so the perseverance is there. And I'll tell you, my purpose, where it's ended up, is that it's allowed me the time to seek things that I really want to do from a personal charitable standpoint. A lot of you know I work with men in prison. I've worked with men in prison in maximum security for 10 years, and it's allowed me to do that. And it's on my own money. But to see those people improve and those people's, their lives changed, has really been, everything I do in coaching has drove that to that purpose. So what we want to do is, we've got 9 people, we don't have a lot of time, so I have one question I just want to ask each of our panel, and just introduce yourself as we go, because we've got good friends here. I've known many of you, some of you 17 years. So the question is, ladies and gentlemen, we'll just start with my friend Jim Diebold over here. The question is, of the purpose, preparation, pace, and perseverance, which one is most important to you? And then what do you do every day to maintain that? Same question, so prepare, everybody. So be thinking about it. We'll just put Jim on the spot. We don't have a mic.
I think we should start with Greg.
So real quick, I'll say it started off with perseverance, because I started in February of 2020, and in March of 2020, things were very, very different. So there was a ton of perseverance that was needed in that. But I'll go to purpose, and it's similar to what Danny said. I was one of those business owners working 50 hours a week. And in my corporate bubble that I came from, I honestly didn't even know coaches existed. I truly didn't. And so my partner and I just went about our day-to-day, didn't know what to do any differently than what we were doing. So 50 hours was like normal. So now, other than saying, yes, I'm doing this for my family and all of that, my purpose is I get to help people not be like I was. That is a big driver for me, and that's what gets me out of bed every single day.
And how many hours do you spend now? I mean, what's your mix? No, I mean, what's your
Significantly
mix
less.
is the point. You're helping people, but you also have family.
Yeah,
you didn't
absolutely.
have that before.
100% able to lean into our value here of balance. Maybe 30 hours or so between clients and the marketing activities that I do, and that's probably a fair estimate on a weekly basis, maybe 30 hours.
And Jim, what do you do every day to maintain that? Once that's, you know, I mentioned yesterday, I do a daily planner every night before I go to bed, or I don't go to bed. You know, so what do you do every day to maintain that?
Yeah, so every single day I know exactly what, similarly, I can't say that I'm disciplined enough to do a daily planner, but I do know what's going on. I do take a look every single day as to what the needs of the clients are going to be going into the meeting, and then what my time commitments are, whether it's in chamber roles or other leadership roles that I have in the organizations that I'm in. But then, to stick with the balance piece of the purpose, I don't just randomly allow meetings to happen because I have time in my calendar. I call it quits when I'm good and feel good about calling it quits.
Discipline.
For the day. Yes, very much so.
Your discipline has grown a lot, hasn't it?
Oh, tons. In my first year, I would meet with anybody. At any time. Because I thought that's what I needed to do, but you don't. You can be very strategic with your time and who you're meeting with, and meet with the right people, and it changes everything.
And I think what makes coaches great is having that discipline in something, because you can't run around goofy like you used to. I mean, you have to have discipline for your clients to see the discipline.
100%.
Right?
Because they know.
Yeah.
It's like you mentioned being salesy, if you will, here. When you're, in other words, not being genuine. They know. They can absolutely tell when you're not being genuine. So yeah, you have to definitely walk the talk.
And again, in today's world, I believe it's all about perception. And people will hire you based on a perception that you have things. You know, I believe that I will believe in my clients until they can believe in themselves. And that's a perception they have to believe in, right?
100%.
Yep.
Because as you've said for years, we sell hope.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes we have to be their hope for a while until they start to see it.
Amen.
So probably like similar to Jordan's story this morning, like there was challenges. And so, you know, the coach, Kelly, has to be the person that knows it because we've done it. This isn't the first person we're helping. And so they can plug into our battery, so to speak.
Okay. So I'm going to mess with the lineup a little bit, and Greg, you're next.
God help us all.
So what do you do? What do you do? Which one's most important? And we've already talked about this, but what's the most important? What do you do every day? Because I know you're very disciplined.
So I have to say, you know, after now 10 years with Focal Point, that the number one P for me is purpose. I spent an entire life chasing perseverance. I was raised by a psychiatric social worker and a founder of a now third-generation business that my nephew is running. And we were taught to never, ever quit. Ever quit. No matter how hard it got, never quit. And I got to tell you, I chased perseverance all my life to the top of my field in corporate America, bypassed my family business to do that, and got to the top of the ladder, like I think many of us in our fields, and found it was leaning against the wrong building. I promised I wasn't going to do this. Anyway, through Focal Point, I found...
You need a hug.
One thing I got from my parents, who, by the way, will be married 63 years in May.
Yeah.
My psychiatric social worker mother and my small business father was make absolutely as much money as you can and use it to do good in the world. And that kind of stuck. I got really good at making as much money as I could, but forgot about the do good in the world part. until Focal Point. That perseverance when I first started, fortunate to have. To this day, a great coach, Margaret, that while I was trying to persevere and win and make as much money as I can, my purpose at that point, by the way, was to make money. And she said to me, quit trying to control everything and just try following the process. Well, I knew better than Margaret, of course, and I was paying. Paying with pain. Anyway, long story short, those words stuck with me. And when I asked Steve Thompson what was wrong with me, why I'd been a success all my life and now wasn't, what I needed to do different. And he said these simple words: get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Get out of your own way. I discovered purpose in this process. I now believe that we're all born with it on day one. There's a reason we are here, and in my faith, God gives it to us. Here's the thing I think about purpose, though, and God giving us purpose, is he's a practical joker. He doesn't tell us what it is. We got to go find it. And in the process of the 10 years of Focal Point and early on, this group of people, this organization, the values, all helped me find my purpose. And that purpose is this: I believe that life has meaning and purpose. I believe that each and every one of us has the capacity to realize our greatest dreams, to fulfill our God-given potential. What I'm committed to doing is helping people, in particular young men, get out of their own way so that they can be more, do more, and have more, so that they can impact the world in a positive way. The funny thing is, working with young adults and working with business clients, is that they have the same things that are in their way. They have the same need to believe. They're loving, caring, compassionate, successful people, and all they simply need to do is get out of their own way and live who they were born to be. Mm-hmm. When I learned that about other people, I started applying it to myself, and the funniest thing happened. Business started growing at significant rates. Relationships with, by the way, my mother, the psychiatric social worker for reform schools. Try growing up in that family. Became a lot closer. And it became all about relationships, simply by living purpose and helping other people find their own. It changed me.
Fabulous.
And I like to think it changes the people that I work with. So I go to work every day trying to help people be the very, very best people they can. And what I found was the same. Stop chasing money and start chasing purpose, and everything else falls into place.
There you go.
So thank you.
Thank
for the
you.
opportunity.
Thank you. I'll share a quick story. When I go into the prisons, I do 7-hour sessions, coaching sessions, basically. And I have 35 guys in my meeting in maximum security. And last time I did it, 28 were in on life sentences. So I asked them, I always have a poll, what do you want to see the next time I come? And they voted on goal setting. So the question came, you guys are in life sentences, like goal setting. And to tie into what Greg said, the thing they said was this. They said, we can be one of two people in here. We can be the same knuckleheads that got us in here, or we can do something and improve our lives. You talk about building purpose and what I do. Whew. So if they can do it, You can do it, and any of your clients can do it if you go in with the purpose of helping them.
Can I add to that from a business perspective? You know what I found with all of this? So by the way, in my practice, I help second, third generation owners, founders transition to the next generation in family business. I get to work with young people. One of my big passions in the outside of work space, helping prepare them to enter the family business, to continue that legacy on, but at the same time to add their own spin to it. I watched my own brother and my own father not speak to each other for 10 years because you had the conservative guy that was sweeping the warehouse floors that didn't want to spend money on things like trucks and things like that, and the brother that has now expanded that family business from 1 location to 4. So there's that conflict. But here's the thing I want to say. My marketing to this day, it's all referral based, is all because of, by living my purpose, I've attracted other people living their purpose. And a lot of times they own businesses, they sit on business associations and other things. So by simply doing that, my marketing really is to be in positions where other people that can actually buy me that share the same values and purpose that I do happens naturally.
Yeah. Which is the key of the Champions Network. If you really apply it, you don't have to spend a lot of extra money on marketing. It's just communication. It's just meeting people. It's getting those connections, and you can attract it. So let's go to Jerry. Jerry Cavilla, the same question. Tell us which one's most important and what you do every day.
Okay. I was going to talk on purpose, but Greg, I'm not following you on that topic. So
It's
I love
okay.
you, man. Good
It's
stuff.
okay. Yeah, it's okay.
No, I'm actually going to talk on perseverance, since you touched on it a little, Greg touched on it a little, and you balked at both times. So I'll hit perseverance here. So it's interesting. What I want to do is share some personal experience specific to perseverance.
Please.
And ask the question, what exactly does that represent? I mean, it's a word. You can see it. Do we live it? And do we live it properly? Do we truly persevere, right? We look around the room and we see some coaches who may be struggling. We say, hey, hang in there, right? Persevere. Does that really provide enough impetus for people to change? So I'm going to share a story that I've shared probably 1,000 times in my life, 50 years ago. And I think it echoes a lot with the topic. High school runner, so marathon week, I was a long distance runner, and we were preparing for the state championship that week, and we had a really good team. And I was third or fourth on the team at the time. So we were doing a 10-mile run. I got back, and you do what we normally do in high school, like when you're done running, you like fall to the ground and gasp for air. And it looked, in my mind, it really looked good, right? So the coach came up that day and he said, "Hey, Cavella, come here. What's up with you?" I said, "What, coach?" He said, "Why don't you give it your all?" And I said, "Oh, coach, this is tough stuff. 10 miles? Man, am I tired?" And he said, "How tired?" I said, "Like really tired." And he said, "How do you know?" All right. So a long story short, we finished that day. And next day we went out and he said, "Hey, before you run, I want to talk about this wall you're hitting." And he said, just when you, and I remember clearly what he said, and he said, just when you think you've gotten to the point that you have given your all, give a little bit extra and discover something amazing about yourself. And I'm thinking, you okay? You're a teenager, it sounds good. So I remember we were running that day, and you hit that point, and I'm thinking, well, I'll just go into the normal routine and kind of follow the guys around the course, and we'll do fine. But there was a moment that something occurred there, and I felt stronger. I moved faster. We finished the race, and I said, "Coach, that was really cool. Thanks for the tip." And he said, "What tip?" I said, "The one about, breaking through." He said, "It has nothing to do with cross country."
Yeah.
So, and if my wife were here, she would attest to this. I've lived an entire life of getting to the edge, and then I want to see what's on the other side. So perseverance, for me, is really getting to that point where you think you're persevering, but you say, you know what, maybe there's another level of perseverance that I could reach. And for me, just realize something new. And I think I treat my coaching practice the same way. I want to challenge myself, not just, persevering or just moving along,
every day.
but discovering something new each day. So
Every day.
that's how I relate to perseverance.
Yeah. One thing as you're listening to these folks is keep in mind that anybody is capable of it, and any client you have, you can teach them these 4 things. It's part of what you teach. I have a friend a client that has climbed Mount Everest twice. He's climbed every major peak in the world, and he was telling me a story, and I've got a white paper on it. If you ever want to see it, I'll send it to you, because I interviewed him. But he said he was climbing Everest, and he was at 20-some thousand feet, and his connections on his ropes gave away, and he found himself swinging across an ice face at 20,000 feet. And I said, what did you do? And he goes, well, I asked because I'm prepared. I had a purpose of climbing. And he goes, and perseverance was a big deal. He goes, I had to ask myself, I learned to ask myself, am I hurt? Or do I just hurt? He goes, I just hurt. So now I better get my head together and start swinging until I could grab a handhold and finish the climb. And life is like that, and what we do in coaching. So thank you, Jerry. Yeah, let's go to Rich. My good friend Rich. Rich and I have talked about things like this for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
And I know you've got some really pointed notes on this. So please, Rich Scott.
Big shock. I've prepared notes.
Do you have charts like you did yesterday?
Absolutely, yeah.
With
being a high D and C, I actually couldn't decide. So it's a little bit do and then prepare. So pace and prepare. So on the pace side, for me, it's I learned early on to get over doing it right. I don't know if that makes sense. Like in my mind, that high C is like, oh, there's a right way. And in business, the big lesson I had was there's no one single right answer. But my brain wants the right answer. What's the right answer? Yeah, like there's 5 answers. They're all good enough. So just learn by doing it. And then I would say I err on the side of just doing it. So instead of doing it right, just do it and then adjust as I kind of go along. And so that's on the pace side. On the prepare side, yeah, it's for sure a weakness / strength of mine is where I want to prepare. But I actually got this from Dan. So I remember you would use the example of, hey, man, you're stacking bricks in the sales cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're stacking bricks. So you think of a balance, and what you want to do is tip the balance to your side. And for me, I would take that as like, okay, well, what I'm going to do is just try and improve the odds of the likelihood that I'm going to win. Like, I can't guarantee a win, but I can do a whole bunch of things. Brian Tracy says it all the time, everything counts. It either adds or detracts, but everything counts. And so on my preparation is I'm just going to do as much as I can in advance to increase the odds that I'm going to get a win. Yeah, so it's when I combine those two things, I'm going to start, and then I'm going to build in some reflection to go, hey, what could I do better? Because I'm always going to find something to do better, and then I'm just going to adjust. And so the mental picture that I have of that is an airplane, just like we do with clients, is that we can't rehaul the airplane while it's flying. You'd have to take it out of service and do that, but we can make improvements while it's flying. So I just do that with myself. It's like, let's just get going and then adjust as we're going along. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but you do things every day too, though. I mean, this is all part of the process.
It's the second side of my page. I prepared. Yeah. So this is actually funny. Dan and I have laughed about this all the time. So he when you hear him say he does not go to bed until he does his daily planner, like he showed me, I've seen it. Like he's legit. And I start my day It's funny, it's because it's a screen, it's a wallpaper on my phone, water, move, nutrition, read journal, OPAP, and thanks.
Yeah.
And so it just reminds me. And I will often wake up and go, man, I don't know where to start. There's so much to do. And I get grounded by reviewing my values, journaling, and then looking at my goals for that week.
There you go. Yeah.
Right? And it just,
Consistent.
man, there's so many things we're supposed to do. What am I supposed to do next? Okay, let's just get into this rhythm that I do. You know, I wish I do it every morning. It's almost every morning. But I just sit down and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Oh, that's right. I review my values, my goals, I journal, and I get my priorities for the week.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just real quick, some of us had the privilege of sitting at the feet of Cam Frasier and Brian Tracy, and they used to say something that some of us have talked about, that I kind of live by every day. I hear the voices because it was famous that I thought I had the greatest answer and the greatest plan in the world, and they'd look you in the eye and go, "What else? What else?" You haven't lived until one of those two said, "What else?" Because what else? And I asked Brian later why he always said that. He goes, because I don't always know the answer, but by saying what else, it's always driving me to another level. It's always driving me to a different level to think, what else can I do? And every day. So it's, once you're starting to hear things, it's nothing fancy, nothing polished, shiny, but there's things that we do every day that's necessary for us to be successful to help enough people. That's what we're hearing. So, Alay, you got the microphone. Why don't you go ahead? Alay Yajnik, thank you, Alay. Let's talk about your favorite one or all and what you do.
Okay. So, much like Rich, I think I'm going to talk about prepare and pace, and I've got the notes on my phone. So I kind of wanted to mention something here. I took myself back when I prepared for this to when I first started my practice, because I think we have a lot of new coaches in the room, people that have had their practice for less than a year. So I'm hoping this helps you all, but before I jump into all of that, I'm kind of freaking out up here because after 12 years, I'm finally on stage with Dan Creed and Rich Scott. Freaking awesome, I gotta tell you. So, sorry that it was a really wide smile, but really it's amazing. And everyone up here has helped me in so many ways, either through help or support, and thanks to all of you for everything you've done for me. As far as preparing goes, I'm a high C as well. And so for me, I was thinking about how I could build my practice, and it really came down to three things. And this is what I share with coaches that are coming through validation. Number one, follow the system. I know it sounds silly, that's what you all bought, but unfortunately, we have a ton of experience, and so we have a tendency to think, yeah, I know better. This won't work for me. This won't work for my market. This, whatever. Follow the system. It works for all of us. It'll work for you too. The second one is put in the work. Jim mentioned working 50 hours a week. I came out of startups, so for me, a typical week was 70 to 80 hours a week. And so when I heard about Focal Point, I said, yeah, okay, what do you need, 100 hours a week? Like, I'm ready to go. And they said, no. Like, dude, don't do any more than 50 hours a week, because to Rich's point, you've got to market, sell, and deliver your services, and you can't do that if you're exhausted. You have to be at the top of your game. So, but that solid 50 hours is marketing, selling, and delivering, and that's it. There's no water cooler time. There's no screwing around in meetings. Like, it is focused work. And that's a pace that may be new for some of you. The third thing is, I knew with every person I met, I had to make a powerful, positive impression on that person, because I never knew what that person's network was and what opportunities they had for me. So what that meant for me is I needed to just show up and be confident, passionate, and positive. And for someone with an eye of 6, it wasn't easy. So for me, the preparation was really key. I had to get myself amped up like I did for this conversation today, and afterwards I'm going to go to my room probably and put my head in a bucket of water. And when it comes to preparation, you know, we joke that C's like to prepare, but I also came from the world of startups, and you know, the quote from Eisenhower is very, very appropriate here. Plans are nothing. Planning is everything. So planning puts you in a position for success, but just know that when you get to it, those opportunities are going to come from different places because, at least in my case, nothing ever went according to plan. But I was prepared enough to run with that. And so going in for a coaching conversation, it turned into a training conversation.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And we just rolled with it. So be open to those possibilities, and it will serve you well. As far as pace goes, I wanted to set maybe something a little bit straight. I'm really concerned about, you know, what people take away from conference. And something I heard over and over again is slow and steady wins the race. I don't think that's true. Fast and steady wins the race. So pick a pace you're comfortable at, amp it up a little bit more, and stick to that pace. Because the one thing I knew, and my personal goal for me to make this business successful was to get the $200K in revenue before my savings ran out. That was it. And so I knew that I had to just get through the learning curve, do the reps, and just master all the aspects of this business before my money ran out. And that meant taking massive action.
Yeah.
So I worked my tail off, and I know you did, and we all did up here. And I just wanted to wrap up with this quick quote about perseverance. From Roy Bennett, which I absolutely love. Never stop dreaming, never stop believing, never give up, never stop trying, and never stop learning.
Thank you, Eli. Look, if you haven't figured this out yet, if you haven't figured this out yet, for those of you who've never been an entrepreneur, you're getting a master class on being an entrepreneur. This is an entrepreneurial industry, job, profession. I always, when you talked about perseverance, I always believed I'd rather work 80 hours a week for myself than 40 hours a week for someone else. Here, yeah. You know, and that's the opportunity you have here in hearing from these guys. John Jennings, please.
Yeah,
You're
so I'm going to have to lean on purpose and perseverance, but let me first tell you a little bit about how it started, because I'm a high DI, moderate C, no S, and so, you know, I can squirrel, you know, it can happen with me. And so to fight that, I said, oh man, I got preparation pace. That first year, that's what everything was, man, I had to know every module. I had to know everything inside and out. I had to follow. LA was one of my instructors at training. He kept beating it. John, stay on script. It works. Stay, you know. And so I tried that, and that was just so not me. And luckily, I had this guy by my side a lot, talking about purpose. But I struggled that first year because I was not being me. I wasn't being authentic to my purpose. And perseverance is always in my life. I got to talk about my mom for a second. Very different from yours. My mom was the entrepreneur of the family. Owned a bookkeeping business. In tax season, she worked, 80-hour weeks. I saw her grind through all that. But on top of that, she was a 2-time cancer survivor. She had multiple strokes. And in 2007, I was out in your world, out in Hollywood, for a conference, and she had a head-on collision with a truck on a country road. And I got the phone call, and they said, you need to come home. She's probably not going to make it. And took the red eye home that night, expecting to find that she had passed. The neurosurgeon with all the bedside manner of neurosurgeons said she's going to be either brain dead or a quadriplegic. 4 months to the day, she walked out of the hospital on her own power. Wow.
Yeah.
That was my mom. I set that up then to tell you. So 18 months into my practice, I was slow and steady getting to where I was going. I talked to you once. I talked to Rich many times. Todd Eppert. I would pick coaches that I heard stories about and said, "Man, I want to pick their brain." And that's a great part of that. Anybody in this room will give you their time. That's one thing I love about this group. that's very unique. But I did that, and I was getting there, and it was getting there. And then 18 months in I actually hit my goal, that goal, like you said, that I don't have to touch savings anymore. This is going to be great. That was January of 2020. And the first week of March, I lost 85% of my revenue. My wife lost her job. My daughter lost her job. My son and daughter-in-law, who were missionaries in Haiti, got trapped in the DR and couldn't get back to Haiti and couldn't get back to us. So they were trapped in a foreign country for several months. And that was the first week of March. And March kind of went like that. The first week of April, the reason I mentioned my mom had a massive stroke on Palm Sunday. On the Easter Sunday, she passed in a hospital by herself because we weren't allowed to go in and see her. And I was at my turn. I was at it was the lowest of lows, and I was ready to give up. And financially, we were tight. We had money in retirement stuff, but we were watching the cash bleed out, and I was thinking of just chucking this and finding a job, And my wife, who's my rock, and many of y'all know her, she's here. She's like, John, you were made for this. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna let's grind it out. And ramen noodles and everything else. But and I was in Centurions. Shout out to Centurions. I love Centurions. And through that, one of the encouraging things was just get out and serve. Just serve your purpose. So I didn't have any clients, had plenty of free time, couldn't network anywhere at the time. This was May, June of 2020. So I just started doing webinars. I did free webinars. I'd have 8 people one week and 28 the next, but just every week. I was just coming up with topics and doing webinars, and I did that for like 13 weeks. My mind was focused on serving. Even if only 3 people showed up, it was 3 people, right? But I was serving. And quick story, there was this one lady that was always on. She was 3 or 4 weeks in a row, Monica with a K. She wouldn't come off camera, but that was her name, just Monica with a K. And finally, one week, I asked people to stick around if they had any questions, and she stuck around, and she started talking, and I had heard an accent. I said, where are you from? And she said, Bosnia. I said, oh, that's great. Where do you live now? She's like, Bosnia. And I'm like, how in the world did this lady in Bosnia find me in Kentucky? And so that just, it gave me this lift, like, wow, if people will come virtually across the world to listen to little old me, maybe this is going to be okay. And in July, I picked up my first new client, and she's still a client to this day, 5 years later. And I picked up another one in August. Then a client up in Pennsylvania said, hey, we're sick of this, virtual stuff. Would you come and do a training program in person? We'll pay you well. I'm like, you bet. And so it's funny, they're a healthcare company, but so we September matched my January number, and I've never looked back. But I had to persevere, and we all have that 3 feet from gold moment, and I had that moment, and you're all going to hit it at some point. Hopefully yours isn't as low as mine, but there's just so much more to your purpose. You really realize what you're doing after that. And I love what I get to do every day. And what I do every day is y'all know most of you know I'm a positive intelligence person as well. That program helped me so much put a process to my mindset. And when I catch myself, those voices in my head, mine's hypervigilant. When I get that voice in my head, I recognize it and I deal with it. And so 2 years, almost 2 years to the day after my mom died, we're sitting at the conference in New Orleans. We're at the banquet, and they're going through these awards, and they're reading off the history, the history of the person that's going to win the Cam Frasier Award. And I'm sitting there going, most of that stuff kind of applies to me. And then they said my name, and Adam Thompson sitting next to me, he's like, dude, get up. It was the most surreal moment in my life, because 2 years earlier, I was ready to chuck it all in.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Thank you, John. You know, I think what he's saying is it's really hard to give when you're not getting. And that's where the perseverance has. I think if we had time, I could ask everybody here, and at some point, my first year, I did 83 free speeches to every Lions Club and Optimus Club. I just went, it was free, but everybody, my target customer is there, and that's just something we had to do. And I think all of you have done that. So let's go to Dulcie. The lady on the thing. I know a lot about what you've done, but share that, and we'll have Kelly and Mikey, and we'll have the time, right? Okay.
Okay, well, I know you asked for one, but like many up here, I'm a D, so I'm going to break the rules and give you two. Yes.
Wave the flag.
My first one is purpose, as many of us have set up here, because that is really what drives us every day. And my purpose is really unleashing the creativity in others and helping them be the best that they can be. I'll give you an example. It's kind of an extreme one, but I created a service management program and was talking to one of my service managers in that, and he was so burned out and stressed out, much of it self-induced, that as I talked to him about it and asked him questions about it, he began to cry. And don't worry, I'm not going to get emotional like our high eyes over there.
We got to stick together, right? We
Said
gotta
with love.
stick together.
Absolute love. But when that happens, when a client is down, you know, when they're stuck, like many of us have experienced in our own businesses, I feel this overwhelming surge of energy and motivation to help them get past it, to get them to this place where they're past it and they're smiling again and they're feeling good about where they are and what they're doing. And so that's really what drives me each and every day. The second one for me is perseverance. I'm definitely 10% talent, 90% hard work, for sure. Absolutely. And I launched my business January 2nd of 2008. Perfect timing as always. As you know what happened in 2008. And so I call it the character building exercise for sure. But there were times that I wanted to throw in the towel too. There were times when I said, maybe I better go back, get a job, work for someone else. And there's a lot of options when you're feeling that way. There's quite a few options, and trust me, I tried them all. I wallowed in self-pity, felt sorry for myself. But as stupid and as simple as it sounds, what I found always worked. The cure every time was just get to work. What do you have to do next, Dulcie? What do you have to do next to keep that rock rolling down the hill and move yourself towards your goals? And I'm like Rich. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just do something. Just do something. And it's an instantaneous cure. You know, the depression, the sadness, the uncertainty goes away because you just get to work. You just get to work. So, and what I do, to answer your other question, what I do to prepare is I sit down at the beginning of the week, and what is everything I need to / want to accomplish this week? And then I look at that list, and then I prioritize that list. And then each day, I get up in the morning, okay, what's left? What do we still have to do? What are we going to do today? And the day doesn't end until I've done those things, right? So I just get those things done, and that keeps me focused.
Yeah.
It keeps me positive. And I'm a journaler, too. So I do that. I do a lot of meditation and journaling to keep my head in the right place each and every day, because it's not always easy. You know, we have those challenges. So that's pretty much, that's my story.
Fabulous mentality. I'll share a quick story. I had the opportunity to spend some time, 7 or 8 times, with the second richest man in the world, Larry Ellison, who owns Oracle. And I asked Larry one time, I said, what do you do every day? It's almost the same question. He goes, I'll never forget it. He said me 3 things, but the last thing he said was, every night when I go to bed, I sat on the edge of the bed and said, Larry, you wake up in the morning. Now, he was worth $80 billion at the time. He said, but I sit there and go, Larry, I could be broke when I wake up in the morning. So what did you do today to keep that from happening? Think about that. I'm telling you as a coach, you need to have that mentality. I mean, it's like day one. What do you do to keep growing and keep improving yourself? So we talk about giving. Everybody gives. If we really get in these stories, either Greg's story and Rich's and Jim's, everybody gives. I think the king of giving on this panel, though, is Mikey here, who in the last few years in particular, he's a fireman, he's a politician, he's a great coach. And he's a Cam Frasier Award winner. So, Mikey, could you talk about what you do? Because what's your DISC profile?
High I, high S, C over the line, no D at all. But importantly, can I say, I was a high C growing up. I grew up in a loud, crazy environment. I hid from it. Everything had to be just completely anal. Didn't serve me at some point. I changed who I was authentically. So I still don't know how a knucklehead like me ends up sitting with this amazing group of people. And I'm glad to be with, Team I, so when I cry, that it's cool.
You're on the hugging end.
Yeah.
The hugging end isn't over here. The hugging end is over here.
And I could just say what Greg said, but, I'll go into my own version. And purpose. All 4. Here's my advice to everybody here, especially new coaches. Figure out what your purpose, preparation, pace, and perseverance is between 1 word and 10 words, and then let it evolve from there. It won't stay the same. And that's okay. Start somewhere. But for me, it all starts with purpose. I know my purpose every moment of every day. I wake up, I know my purpose 7 days a week. And that's to improve the lives of people I'm connected to and not yet connected to. 7 days a week. I already know what I'm doing the second my eyes open. So I just take it from there. With that said, purpose to me first of all, I combine my purpose with being a focal point coach. Being a focal point coach has changed my life. It's made my life, I can't even describe how much better. It's given me structure and form and content. It's given me this group here. It's given me that foundation, that base to try and make a difference in the world, a positive difference in the world. Every moment with all my clients and everyone I come in contact with, I sense and I know that your life isn't what happened, it's what you do next. And so it doesn't matter if you're in prison or where you've been or how crazy your family was growing up or what traumatized you. That's the past. And we can all move forward, particularly our clients. There's always a path forward. I remember, and for me, money is not the path forward, for me. It's been part of my life for sure, but it does not drive anything I'm talking about right now. I was in my store, my business. I owned a business for 30 years, which I sold. It was December. It was packed. It was going to be $1 million month. We were crushing it. And I was standing with a customer friend, and we're watching this sea of people, sea of employees, sea of customers. And the guy goes, man, you got it made. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, you got this great family. You guys travel the world. You got, your kids are awesome. You got this amazing business. And I'm sitting there going, then why the hell am I so damn miserable? I'm like, what is wrong with me? I lacked purpose. I just didn't know. And now I know that I believe the reason we're here on this planet is for the opportunity to evolve. I don't think the planet actually gives a damn if we do. But my genetic and spiritual reason I think are here is for the opportunity to evolve.
Yeah.
And being part of this group, all of you has given me that opportunity. I'm just beyond grateful.
Yeah.
As some of you know, things have not been easy. Some of you know my story. Lately, I'm spending half my time trying to save every single business in my town because we got run over by a fire. We literally got wiped out.
And you're a firefighter. You're hands-on.
Yeah, I spent all of January in firefighter outfit, plain firefighter, and but it's purpose. It's purpose, and you know, I wouldn't trade the PTSD I got over that for anything.
Yeah.
Not in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
You see. So.
And if you want to tie it, if you want
Look
to,
at.
and if you want to tie in some business to it, everything he's done in giving has translated into a great champions network. Would you agree?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple people here that changed my life instantly when I joined Focal Point. There's a thing in my contract, as I remember, which I don't remember because I'm a high I and I don't care, but as I remember, it says, anything anyone comes up with at Focal Point, they have to share with everyone. And I thought, yeah, it sounds really good. You know, no one really does that. Well, like day one, Rich took like an hour out of his time, and he set me up for my first speech. And I was flying to Orlando, and I failed public speaking growing in college. I failed. It's the only F I ever got in life. And I'm like, yeah, you didn't know that. I got there.
Way up from there, buddy.
Well, I got my first really great client there, where he's still a client. He came up to me after I spoke, and he goes, "You're the reason I'm at this show," and that was a big moment for me that I've probably not fully shared. It was amazing. It was amazing. So that, and it was you. You know, we had early talks. You may or may not remember.
Yeah, I did.
And the energy you put into my heart and soul was amazing. One more thing. I never networked a day in my life when I became a Focal Point coach. Not a day. I was too cool and too busy to go to a chamber meeting. I just hadn't done it. I was busy doing other stuff. So thank you all. This means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mikey. So last but not least, Mr. Laverty, when we were all starting so long ago, sometimes we really struggled to find people of like minds and everything. And Rich and I spent a lot of time talking. Kelly and I spent a lot of time. Dulcie and I, we just spent a lot of time just saying what's going on, because I feel like I'm all by myself, huh?
Am I crazy?
Yeah, am I crazy? Am I nuts? But Kelly and I just kind of hit up a friendship that's lasted forever, and we're a little late, buddy, but at 9 o'clock every Friday for 16 years, Kelly and I talk to each other. We call each other, and if we're not going to be in town or on vacation, we go, can we move to Monday? All right, we just never miss talking. And he kicks my butt up and down the street sometimes, and in turn, I can do the same, but we talk about business. It's not talking about our golf game. We talk about business, how we can help each other, and that's what everybody up here has done. And you should find somebody you can do that with, somebody that has no problem to tell you and ask you and listen to you. That's the key. So, Kelly, tell us, and just tell us what you do and what drives you, because again, you've been doing this as we heard with Jordan here. You just like everybody here, you've been successful at this.
Yeah, for me, it's about perseverance. That's kind of my, my motivation, my philosophy. When we came into conference this year with those 4 words, they sort of really resonated to what is it that we do, what is it that we are here for. Again, what's our purpose as business coaches? And while I pick perseverance. I tried not to pick two like Dulcie, but I look at purpose, preparation, and pace really as the framework for what that perseverance is all about. And so what do I mean by that in terms of how do I prepare for it? What drives me as it relates to why is perseverance so important to me? Well, I guess there's two things. One is, I look at the definition or what's, in terms of, the focus on, oh God, man, his name's slipped my mind, but what's the definition of coaching? Coaching is about maximizing the potential of other individuals. And Sir John Whitmore just came to me, thank you. But, looking at that and thinking about that as in the context that it's a journey. Coaching is a journey, it's not an event. And when I look at the journeys that I've been on, and the journeys that my clients have been on and we've been on together, it's making sure that we have the fortitude, we have the drive, we have the motivation that gets us to where ultimately we want to go. And it's not about solving a particular problem, because that problem is something that's in our way. It's not the goal, it's not the mission, it's not the the purpose, but it's something that we've got to deal with. And so when I first started, coaching, I started thinking about, well, how can I be successful with these clients? I hear about, I was fortunate to be early in the game as a coach in 2008. There was Rich and Phil and Don Ramage and, in Canada to start with. And, I was thinking about how can I make a difference to people, right? Why, kind of like, why are they going to listen to me, right? But the way that I looked at it was, and I tell every prospect this, I will be a virtual part of your business. I cannot help you if I don't feel your pain and celebrate your success. So if I can, be part of that and persevere, we're not going to solve today's problems. We are, but that's not where the mission ends. That's not where the journey stops. Because if you look at sigmoid curve and use that as, what is it we're trying to do? Well, we're trying to go up that growth side of the curve, but we want to prevent going back down that curve. And so the mission, the journey is, how do we create that next upward curve for a client that allows them to be able to achieve really what they want to achieve? I don't measure my success as a coach as, how much money I make. It's nice. But I measure my success by the success of my clients, right? And if we don't achieve the goals that we set out to do, then I haven't been successful. My clients might think that, hey, we're better than what we were, but we didn't get to where we wanted to go. So how do we reset? I measure my success in another way, and I don't think I'm unlike many of you. I don't work with a contract. I don't work with a contract. In 17 years of doing this, I have never tied a client to, well, you're signing me up for 12 months, and whether you like me or not, I will be here every week, whether you like me or not. I just think it's a waste of their money, their time, and my time, because I'd rather be working with somebody else that's got that drive, that knows it's going to be a journey to get to where they want to go. So I tell people that I earn the right to come back every week. Right? And so let's measure our success together. So perseverance it's about getting there. It's and when you just think you got there, guess what? We raise the bar and we go to another level.
Yeah.
And that's what I think, drives, in terms of these 4 words, because, without my philosophy, and not saying that plan or preparation or purpose is any less important, but for me, I can have those 3 things, but if I don't have perseverance, that kind of may not be enough to get me where I need to go.
Yep.
So that's how I try to do things.
Thank you, Kelly. So let's wrap things up. I want, probably the most passionate person that I've ever met is low-key was Cam Frasier. I mean, he didn't have to raise his voice, but he was very, very passionate. And I'm gonna leave you with this challenge. You've got to be passionate about your investment. You've got to be passionate about being a coach, because look, I mean, I hear sometimes coaches that are struggling saying, well, I said, why do you struggle? Well, I've never been a coach before, and I kind of have to learn this and everything. I said, cut that crap. You've got 30 years or 20 years of experience that you can use every success and every failure in your coaching. So cut the crap of making excuses. Honor your past and add to what these people have talked about. Add to what you've been taught. Add to the group. But you've got to be passionate. I'll add passion that drives all 4 of those things. You've got to be passionate about your vision and purpose to do this. Then everything else falls in place. Forget about, learn from your past. Honor your past and bring it to this. I use stories every day from times I screwed up 50 years ago, 30 years ago, every day. And you have those as stories. I've always said that we've got some of the best curriculum in the world, but that's 50% of our curriculum. The other 50% is our experience base and the things we learn every day. We've got to tie that in. So let me thank Jim, Jerry, Rich, Alay, Kelly, Dulcie, Mikey, John, and Greg here for being here and sharing this, and thanks for giving us the time.